No, don't stop. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Welcome, everyone, to the old school Runescape reveals. Hey! Over what's happened in the last 12 months. So 12 months ago, we had 17 JMods working for the team. This year, we've got 24 JMods working for the team. And next year, we plan to have 28 JMods. So the team is growing and more people are working on it. And when you start thinking about all the other teams that help make the game, so the engine team, the HR team, web development, and all the other teams across Jagex that help make the game, we have 85 other JMods from other teams supporting this game. That's over 100 people make old school RuneScape right now. And that is amazing. It's really important for us so you guys know that when we're talking about stuff up here that we want to do it because we think you guys want it done. And we're going to continue doing that.
This isn't our first draft, and it certainly isn't our final draft. And as is with all our designs, your feedback is greatly appreciated. Because you see, we've added some quests, and we've added some bosses. But there's one thing that we haven't added, and that's a new skill. Now, over the years, our priority reports have shown that a demand for a new skill has only increased. It constantly tops them, and you clearly want one. But of course, this isn't the first time we've spoken about a new skill. Back in 2014, Artisan was polled, and it got 56.6% of the vote. Not quite enough to pass, but a clear, people want it. And then there's sailing. This was polled a year later, in 2015, and it gained 68% of the vote. Still, 7% shy of that 75% threshold. Now, when we thought about doing a skill moving forward, we looked at these previous skills, and we thought, what was the main criticisms? What didn't you like? And the thing that came up the most was that they felt a bit too much like a minigame, and the rewards seemed somewhat unrelated, which is fairly clear that since then we've added a lot of those rewards into the game. So with that in mind, we thought, what could make a perfect old school skill? It needs to fill content, it needs to connect things together, but it can't have too broader effects on the game, and of course, it needs to feel like a skill. We found something in somewhat of a strange place. So I'm sure many of you know who this guy is. He is you've seen him walking around the Wizard's Tower, he has split bark equipment on, and he's there in the world to create split bark equipment. But if you ask him about the armor, he says something quite strange. He says that it's actually quite easy to make. Well, if it's so easy to make, why can't we do it ourselves? Why do we need to pay him to do it? And Peer the Seer and Relica offers a similar service. And it's made us think. You can make armor for melee with smithing, and you can make armor for range with crafting. But there is no skill to make armor for mage. And there's a whole host of armors for wizards that are in the game, and we don't know where these come from. You get them from boss drops, and some characters make them, you buy them from shops, but where are they coming from? And so, I am very pleased to announce Old School's first potential new skill, warding. So, warding is to magic, what smithing is to melee, and what crafting is to range. Essentially, you make wizard armor. Now, how does it fit? Well, we all know the process of making melee armor. You mine some more, you smith it into bars, and then you turn it into various types of metallic equipment. And the same goes for ranged. You slay dragons, maybe some cows, you tan the hides into the leathers into hide, and then use your crafting skill to make various types of ranged equipment. So how does warding fit into this? Well, the main support skill for warding will be farming, where you farm various types of fabric, and then use your warding skill to channel runic energy into these resources to make all those armors that you know and love, from blue wizard robes to mystic and split bark. What do you need to train warding? Well, like other production skills, you're going to need some tools, and your tools for warding come in the form of elemental soapstones. Think of these as magical chalk. You'll use these to draw magical wards onto the floor, and once that's down there, it will act as your sort of like a magical anvil. And next, you have your channeling lamps. See, these are your hammers. You'll use these to manipulate the energy into the fabrics to make these armors. And of course, you're going to need some resources as well. The first one is runic energy. This is a brand new resource purely for warding, and you'll be gathering it through various types of magic and rune crafting. Next, you'll have your fabrics and barks that I mentioned earlier that you gather through farming and wood cutting. So where do you train? Well, anywhere you can place a fire, you can place a ward. So essentially, you can train anywhere. However, there will be set locations around the world where you find these strange runestone monoliths. When training around these runestone monoliths, your energy will go further, meaning you'll train far more resourcefully. However, XP will be a little slower as you have further to go. And also, able to train with friends and use each other's wards, unless, of course, you're an Iron Man. So what's the overall process? Step 1, you gather your various types of fabrics. Here's a new type of farming patch called the Magnannery. This is essentially a place where you place silkworms and go back every now and then to collect some silk. Step 2, you siphon your energy. By using combat spells on the runestone monoliths themselves, you'll be rewarded with various types of runic energy. Of course, these first 2 steps you don't need to do. You could trade these with other players. Step 3, you draw your ward onto the floor. And step 4, you use your resources on the ward, and now you can make all the types of equipment that we know and love. It's that simple. And I think that's what's most important with the skill for old school RuneScape. It needs to be simple, and it needs to make sense into the world and not add too much. So, of course, we can't have a new skill without some new rewards. And our first one is an extended version of the Splitbark equipment line. So, Bloodbark and Soulbark will be new tank mage armor. They won't be best in slot for magic accuracy or magic power, but there will be a new option for various types of wizards. And these ideas were taken straight from the community. Next, it gives us the option to rebalance some underused pieces of armor. Things like Splitbark and Skeletal and Lunar equipment, they are severely underpowered for the tier they're currently at. And we feel that maybe increasing a couple of magic accuracy points would bring them into a bit more of a use, but without devaluing current armors. Next, we have channeled rings. I'm sure all of you are aware of the Nightmare Zone reward shop. Over the years, your displeasure with the shop has become very, very apparent. All of the rewards seem relatively unconnected to the content and could be placed in many other places. And we feel like warding is the perfect place to put all of those imbued rings, making them more of a skill-related thing rather than a reward minigame. Next, we have the runic energy that I spoke about earlier. You might have noticed that the process of gathering this sounded a bit like splashing. I'm sure many of you have gone to Lumbridge and seen the hordes of knights splashing away on rats and spiders, and it doesn't look that great. By moving this process to another part of the game and encouraging you to wear the correct attire, wizard robes, it will look a little bit better and free up Lumbridge Castle from all that clutter. And also, runic energy ties into runecrafting if you're a bit of a pacifist and wish to not do any magic. And next, we have the mechanic of dissolving. This is essentially a way of adding value to all those junk items stored away in your bank. By using these items on a ward, you'll be able to dissolve them down into their base parts. You have a chance to gain something back. So, for instance, if you were to use an adamant plate body, you could potentially get back an adamant bar, and you have a guaranteed chance to gather back some of that energy used to create it. And finally, we can't have a new skill without a new skill cape. And, of course, this is just our first idea for a skill cape. We would love to hear yours as well. And of course, we'd pulled them all separate, together and let the community decide on which one they want. So that's all I have to talk to you all about for warding for one day. But don't worry, there'll be more in detail information in the future later today.
The footage within this video is not actual gameplay and was created using concept art. The design is still subject to change, and you can find the most up-to-date details on the Old School website. The ground shook, and across the land, 6 ominous rocks rose from the earth in a swirl of magic and rubble. The scholars of the Wizard's Tower were quick to act, and swiftly began studying these monolithic monstrosities and their peculiar properties. They quickly discovered a way to manipulate the energy within the rocks, utilizing various magical tools to create armor with impressive magical capabilities. Dive into Old School's first new skill by discovering the hidden armaments of the Wizard's Tower and gaining valuable insight into the practices of warding. There you will learn the intricacies of drawing wards and channeling runic energies to create a vast assortment of armors specifically for wizards and witches. Warding is a brand new skill being proposed for Old School RuneScape, available to members and partially in free-to-play. One of the core ideas behind warding is creating a skill which feels as if it could have been a part of RuneScape since day one. A skill which fills a clear gap, fitting into the game seamlessly, solving a number of problems, all while giving you more content to enjoy. Let's take a look at exactly what warding is and what it has to offer. There are many pieces of magic equipment which are a mystery in the eyes of the player. Blue wizard robes, Zamorak robes, mystic robes, Splitbark. They are abundant throughout the world, primarily dropped by monsters, sold by NPCs, and in some cases crafted by them. But we have been left in the dark. What are they made from? Where do those materials come from? And how are they crafted? We know the answer for many metal armors all the way back to the source of each ore. We are capable of making it ourselves through mining and smithing. The same can be said for leather ranged equipment. We can slay the dragons ourselves and craft their hides into armor. But magic equipment remains largely a mystery. And this is where warding comes in. Warding is to magic what smithing is to melee, or crafting is to ranged. It's a skill which allows you to create magical equipment for witches and wizards. On top of creating magic gear, the skill also allows you to imbue items and dissolve some pieces of equipment to retrieve the energies and base resources which make them up. Warding ties in with a number of other skills, taking the resources they provide and allowing you to turn them into a variety of wizardy garments. One of the most important aspects of any new skill is the process for gaining experience. Let's walk through the process of training warding from start to finish. Much like crafting and smithing, warding is trained by creating equipment. So let's set up our inventory and get started. To do this, you will need 3 things: materials, energy, and tools. Materials are sourced primarily from farming, with some resources coming from hunter, woodcutting, and combat. The materials used include fabrics, leathers, and bark. Energy can be siphoned via magic and runecrafting through the use of runes and the creation of them. Casting combat spells on certain runestone monoliths will allow you to siphon energy. The tools required to create equipment include soapstones and channeling lamps. Channeling lamps are created using smithing and crafting, and soapstones come from a new resource called steatite. Once you have your materials, energy, and tools, you are ready to make some equipment. You can choose to do this pretty much anywhere. However, if you create equipment near a runestone monolith, the energy cost of creating equipment is reduced. 6 monoliths can be found throughout the world, resembling the large rocks you have probably seen north of Falador. To start, you will need to draw your first ward. Wards are used to channel the needed energy for creating your magical equipment. Clicking on your soapstone will draw a ward on the ground. Now all you need to do is use your materials on your ward and select the piece of equipment you would like to create. And it is as simple as that. You'll need to visit a bank, stock up on supplies, and repeat. Now that we know how you train warding, let's take a look at some of the potential benefits for leveling up. As you've probably gathered by now, warding will allow you to create magic equipment which already exists in game. This includes Mystic, Splitbark, Skeletal, Lunar, Zerician robes, Monk's robes, Druid robes, Zamorak robes, and Wizard robes. On top of being able to create these sets, the Splitbark, Skeletal, and Lunar sets will be rebalanced to bring them new life and make them appropriately powerful. And for the lower level Monk, Druid, Zamorak, and Wizard robes, players with the required warding level will be able to create brand new hoods for each set. Looking beyond existing equipment, 2 new sets of high-level mage tank armor is also being proposed as a part of warding: Bloodbark and Soulbark. The stats of these armors are not yet finalized at the time of making this video, but they will be made available in a developer blog on the Old School website in the near future. Nightmare Zone has been home to ring imbues for quite some time, but both the community and the Old School team agree that it isn't an ideal home for them. Thematically, warding is the perfect fit. If warding were added to Old School, these ring imbues would move from Nightmare Zone and would become a perk of the skill. On top of imbuing existing rings, it would also be possible to create channeled rings. Rings which provide varying skilling perks with finite charges. The effects of these rings will come down to what the community would like to see. An example might be the Ring of Amber, which could provide you with a chance of double produce when farming. Finally, we have Dissolving. Dissolving is the process of returning items to their base parts. This is done by using these items on a ward, much like you would when training the skill. However, no experience is gained in doing so. Instead of experience, you will have a small chance of receiving some materials and a guaranteed chance to receive a small amount of runic energy. For example, you can dissolve iron equipment for a chance of receiving iron bars and a guarantee of receiving mined energy. The higher your warding level, the more you can dissolve. There we have it, warding, Old School's first new skill. This video is very much an overview of warding to get you familiar with the general concept and the goals of the proposal. For the full details, please read the developer blog on the Old School website. Thank you all for watching, have a great week, and I'll see you next time.